In the peaceful English countryside of the 19th century, life takes its course at Longbourn, home of the Bennet family. Because, in this world full of customs, a young woman's destiny is always the same: marriage. Mrs. Bennet, the ambitious and determined matriarch, has made the marriage of her 5 daughters her main goal in life. Her husband, Mr. Bennet, an intelligent and sarcastic man, observes everything with an amused mix of resignation. Their 5 daughters, Jane, Elizabeth, Mary, Kitty, and Lydia, each represent, in their own way, their mother's hopes and worries. Their future depends on their ability to attract the attention of a good husband. And the Bennets, of course, are no exception to the rule. In a world where appearances are everything, every ball, every gathering is a chance to stand out. Society's rules are strong, and a young woman's reputation can be ruined in an instant. The arrival of 2 wealthy bachelors, Mr. Bingley and his friend Mr. Darcy, will shake up the Bennet family. Their arrival will set off a chain of events that will test new love, strong friendships, and the deepest prejudices. In the middle of this whirlwind of emotions, the Bennet sisters will have to figure out their own feelings and make choices that will shape their futures. Mrs. Bennet is the heart and soul, and sometimes the headache, of Longbourn. Her one-track mind? Marrying off her daughters, preferably to rich husbands, of course. Jane, the eldest, is sweetness personified, a real sweetheart. Kind and gentle, she sees the good in everyone and everything, just like Pollyanna. Elizabeth, our heroine, is intelligent and independent, a woman ahead of her time. Behind the wit and irony beats a loyal and passionate heart. Mary, the intellectual of the family, would much rather have a good book than go to a ball. Shy and reserved, Mary finds refuge in literature and classical music. Kitty, the younger sister, is joined at the hip with Lydia. The 2 of them are a bit superficial, more interested in gossip and uniforms than deep conversations, you know. A good marriage, my dears, she repeats endlessly. Only a good marriage will guarantee your happiness. Lydia, the youngest, is the little whirlwind of Longbourn. Spoiled and impulsive, she would do anything to be the center of attention. Her superficial charm hides a certain immaturity, like fresh milk that spoils in the end. Mr. Bennet, on the other hand, observes this family dance with an amused detachment. His sarcasm and irony are his way of dealing with his wife's craziness and his daughter's hustle and bustle. But behind this facade of a tired patriarch, he hides a special affection for his daughters, especially Elizabeth. The Bennet family, despite its imperfections and eccentricities, is united by a love that not even the most venomous gossip of a social gathering can break. It is in this family nest, as cozy as it is chaotic, that our protagonists prepare to face the challenges of love, marriage, and social conventions. News spreads through Longbourn like wildfire. Mr. Bingley, a single man of good family and even better fortune, has just moved into Netherfield Park. Mrs. Bennet is over the moon, of course. Such a catch, it's a sign from above. Mr. Bingley finally arrives, accompanied by his sister and the mysterious Mr. Darcy. Bingley is all charm and seems quite taken with Jane. Darcy, on the other hand, is as cold and distant as an ice cube. His arrogance and air of superiority leave the inhabitants of Longbourn speechless. Little do they know that this arrival is like a storm about to hit Longbourn, shaking hearts and revealing the truths behind appearances. Darcy's pride and Elizabeth's prejudice clash like 2 runaway horses. She finds him arrogant, full of himself, and doesn't hold back from criticizing his snobby behavior with her family and friends. He, on the other hand, is intrigued by Elizabeth's intelligence and independence, so different from other young women in society. Their relationship is a game of provocation and glances full of hidden intentions. Each encounter is a battle of wits, each word a sword thrust. The arrival of Bingley and Darcy turned little Longbourn upside down. Between repulsion and a hint of curiosity, Elizabeth finds herself drawn to this mysterious man who challenges everything she believes in. Between Jane and Mr. Bingley, the affection is immediate and mutual, a classic tale of love at first sight. Sweet and attentive, Bingley is captivated by Jane's beauty and kindness, as if she were the muse inspiring a romantic poet. The conversations, initially timid, turn into long chats, like a charming word game, where shared laughter and knowing glances are mixed, worthy of a good chapter by a famous author. At balls and social gatherings, they are inseparable, dancing waltzes and quadrilles with the grace and elegance that you only see in period films. The chemistry between them is more than palpable. It's like the breeze of a famous beach on a summer day. And all of Longbourn, from the matriarch to the family dog, begins to dream of a happy marriage for sweet Jane. Mrs. Bennet, radiant as ever, takes every opportunity to extol the virtues of her future son-in-law as if he were a prince. Even Elizabeth, initially skeptical of this whirlwind romance, has to admit that Bingley seems sincere in his attentions, as if he had found his perfect match at a grand ball. She observes with tenderness how her older sister blossoms every day, like the flowers that colour the city in spring, and finds herself wishing that this newfound happiness will last forever, like the love stories her grandmother used to tell. But like a shadow on the wall, Mr. Darcy threatens the happiness of Jane and Bingley. Convinced that his friend is a victim of a passing fancy, Darcy decides to intervene, believing he's acting in Bingley's best interest. Blinded by his pride and prejudices, Darcy considers the Bennet family unworthy of his friend. He convinces Bingley to leave Netherfield and return to London, breaking Jane's heart. Elizabeth, furious with Darcy, whom she considers responsible for her sister's sadness, now feels a deep aversion to the arrogant gentleman. As Jane's heart heals, a newcomer causes a stir in Longbourn, Mr. Wickham, an irresistibly charming officer. Handsome and attentive, he wins over Elizabeth with his refined manners and apparent sincerity. Wickham doesn't waste time in opening up to Elizabeth, telling her a moving story. He claims to have been the victim of an injustice at the hands of Darcy, who deprived him of a sizable inheritance out of sheer envy. Touched by his story, Elizabeth begins to see Wickham as an innocent victim, persecuted by the arrogant Darcy. She becomes convinced that behind Darcy's mask of respectability hides a cruel and heartless being. Blinded by her resentment towards Darcy and charmed by Wickham, Elizabeth allows herself to be led astray. She takes pleasure in believing Wickham's version of events without trying to verify the truth, fueling her anger towards Darcy even more. Wickham's charming and sincere appearance hides a manipulative and unscrupulous man, willing to do anything to get what he wants. He feeds Elizabeth's prejudices, driving a wedge between her and Darcy, and making reconciliation between them even more difficult. The atmosphere is heavy when Mr. Darcy, after weeks of pure tension, unexpectedly shows up at the Bennet house. He asks to speak with Elizabeth privately, leaving her confused and a little nervous. Darcy, with disconcerting honesty and a complete lack of romance, declares his love for Elizabeth. But instead of compliments, his words only confirm the young woman's worst fears. He coldly lists the obstacles to their union: her family, her social class, her lack of dowry. He says he loves her, but at the same time he belittles her and speaks ill of her family. An arrogant and humiliating love, which is miles away from the affection and respect she expects from a husband. Elizabeth's answer hits him like a slap in the face. She firmly refuses his marriage proposal, throwing his wounded pride back at him, his prejudices, and the arrogant way he has always treated her and her family. She doesn't hold back. She reminds Darcy without mercy how much he hurt Jane's happiness and the lies he spread about Wickham. Darcy, pale as a ghost, feels the weight of rejection. His usual know-it-all facade crumbles, replaced by a mix of pain and frustration. Faced with Elizabeth's fury and disdain, Darcy finally sees the colossal mistake he's made. Devastated and humiliated, Darcy leaves Longbourn without another word. Shocked by Darcy's sudden departure and her own harsh words, Elizabeth finds little comfort in her family. Alone with her troubled thoughts, she receives a letter that will change her world. A letter written by Darcy himself, as if to answer the accusations against him. With palpable tension, Elizabeth gives herself over to reading the letter. Each line is a revelation. Each word forces her to question her certainties. About Bingley's departure, Darcy explains that he acted because he believed Jane didn't have true feelings for his friend. He admits his error in judgment, recognizing that he was blinded by his own pride and the prejudices he had against the Bennet family. Regarding Wickham, Darcy reveals his true nature: a manipulator who tried to seduce his younger sister to take possession of her fortune. Darcy's letter hits Elizabeth like a bolt from the blue. The pieces of the puzzle fall into place, revealing a truth very different from the one she had constructed. Elizabeth is overcome with a feeling of shame and regret, mixed with a newfound admiration for the sincerity and loyalty Darcy showed in his letter. A wind of panic blows through Longbourn. Lydia, the youngest and most unpredictable daughter, has disappeared. She has run off with Wickham, the handsome officer. The scandal is enormous, the kind that could stop a town in its tracks. A Bennet daughter running off means certain disgrace. Rumors are spreading faster than gossip in a small town. Mrs. Bennet, poor thing, fears the worst. Mr. Bennet sets off in search of the two. Just when all hope seems lost, an unexpected ally emerges from the shadows. Mr. Darcy. Aware of the situation, he puts aside his pride and past disagreements to help the Bennet family. With characteristic discretion and efficiency, he sets out to find Wickham and Lydia. Darcy finds the runaways' trail in London, a bustling city full of hiding places. He convinces Wickham to marry Lydia, not out of love, but in exchange for generous financial compensation. Darcy uses all his influence and wealth to save the Bennet family's honor without expecting recognition or gratitude, a true act of nobility. Darcy's intervention is an act of courage and generosity, something rare in times like those. This selfless act, known only to a few, reveals Darcy's true nature, a good and loyal man willing to sacrifice himself for those he cares for, even if it costs him his own pride. The scandal of Lydia's elopement has ended, but its consequences still linger. Elizabeth, deeply affected by the events and the revelation of Darcy's role, finds herself torn between gratitude, regret, and a budding love she dares not admit. Darcy, on the other hand, seems to have changed. His pride and coldness have given way to a newfound humility. Now he understands the magnitude of his mistake and the consequences of his prejudices. Chance, or perhaps fate, brings them together again. During a stroll through the charming English countryside, their paths cross. The awkwardness is palpable, but the mutual attraction is stronger than ever. Darcy, with disarming sincerity, apologizes to Elizabeth for his past mistakes. This time, no grand pronouncements or witty remarks. Darcy, with touching humility, offers his heart to Elizabeth, with no strings attached, expecting nothing in return. He confesses to admiring her intelligence, her independence, and her strong character. Elizabeth, touched by his sincerity and the depth of his feelings, accepts his proposal. Their union is a victory over pride, prejudice, and social conventions. Together, they will build a future based on trust, respect, and an unshakable bond. As the sun sets over Pemberley, Darcy and Elizabeth stand hand in hand, gazing at the horizon. Their journey has been one of transformation, mutual respect, and deep love. They have overcome societal expectations and personal flaws to find a love that is truly their own. Now they look forward to a future filled with promise and happiness. Their story is a testament to the power of understanding and the beauty of true love. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Pride and Prejudice. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Your support helps us bring more timeless tales to life. Stay tuned for more literary adventures and heartfelt stories. Until next time, happy reading. As the final chapter of our tale closes, we are reminded of the timeless lessons found within Pride and Prejudice. Darcy and Elizabeth's journey teaches us about the importance of empathy, personal growth, and the power of love. Their story may have ended, but the impact of their love continues to inspire us. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through one of literature's most beloved stories. If you found value in this video, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue to bring these timeless tales to life. Stay tuned for more literary adventures, where each story offers a new perspective and a new lesson. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep reading.